Welcome back. Now for your 5-day weather forecast, we go outside to Catherine Ward.
Thanks, guys. This morning's fog may have slowed things down, but sunny skies should bring temperatures to a high of 10. This evening, there will be a low of 2. Thursday, the sunshine continues with a high of 12 and a low of 3. On Friday, rain might be in the skies. There will be a high of 10 and a low of 8. Saturday, there will be a mix of sun and clouds with a high of 2 and a low of -1. And for Grey Cup Sunday, there will be a high of 2 and a low of -4. And with a 60% chance of precipitation, you could see flurries in the air. That's it for your weather report. Now back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Catherine. Turning now to international and national news. Israel and Hamas have agreed to a ceasefire. The announcement comes on the 8th day of intensive fighting between the two sides. Though a truce has been agreed on, Reuters reports Israel will not lift its blockade on Palestinian territory. The fighting along the Gaza Strip has killed over 140 Palestinians and 5 Israelis. American President Barack Obama commended Israel's prime minister on the ceasefire. U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is also expected to speak during her visit to Cairo. Clinton met with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday and was in Egypt today, meeting the country's president with a promise to help work on the agreement.
The announcement came after news of a bus explosion near Israel's military headquarters in Tel Aviv this morning. Reports say the blast wounded at least 10 people. The driver who witnessed the incident says the bus was completely charred inside and left glass and blood splattered along the sidewalk. Authorities investigating the explosion say it was likely a terrorist attack, but aren't sure whether the bomb was planted or detonated by a suicide bomber. The United States is condemning the incident and say they'll help Israel identify and bring the perpetrators to justice.
A confidential document on Canadian foreign policy has opposition MPs angry with Stephen Harper. The Foreign Affairs document looks at Canada's relations with economically fast-growing countries in Asia and South America. It warns the Conservative government has been slow to open new markets in these countries, leaving Canada tied to the U.S. economy. NDP leader Tom Mulcair says Harper's lack of public consultation defies democracy. Harper has since fired back, saying the document does not reflect government policy.
A movement to eliminate poverty in Canada is urging Ottawa to redirect child tax credits to help the cause. Campaign 2000 is taking aim at 3 tiers of tax credits worth over $5,000 per year. The resources would then be redirected to boost the national child benefit. Campaign 2000 organizers say the new system would cut Canada's child poverty rate by 15% and lift over 170,000 children out of poverty.
Police are investigating an Ontario women's prison facility after receiving reports a guard was trading drugs for sex. Correctional Services of Canada contacted the Waterloo Police after several inmates reported a guard exchanging contraband for sex with an inmate. The CSC won't comment on the matter, but say police are always advised when anyone in the facility is involved with criminal activity. The Grand Valley Institution for Women is the same facility where Ashley Smith committed suicide in 2007 under the watch of 7 guards.
The Church of England will hold an emergency meeting to discuss the consequences of last night's vote to prevent women from becoming bishops. The motion to allow women to become bishops was backed by current bishops and clergy, but lost votes from lay members of the church legislature. It was struck down by an almost 2/3 majority. Women will have to wait another 5 years for the measure to be reconsidered.
According to the United Nations annual report, there is an end in sight to the worldwide AIDS epidemic. The UN announced the end of the disease is coming as patients can access drugs to treat and prevent the virus that causes AIDS. The report says in 2011, 2.5 million people were infected with AIDS, a 20% decrease from 2001. According to the UN, the end to AIDS is not only visionary, but entirely feasible.
And now with your sports news, here's Elton Hobson.
Controversy is brewing in the OCAA over the outcome of this past weekend's Women's Rugby Provincial Championship. Humber played Algonquin in the final, and the two teams were tied at 8 points each at the end of regulation. Now, according to OCAA regulations, there should follow one 10-minute overtime period, and if that doesn't settle things, penalty kicks. But the official in charge of refereeing the OCAA Provincial Championship game apparently isn't too familiar with OCAA regulations. Humber went ahead 13-8 in the 10-minute overtime, yet the referee called for another overtime period to be played. Algonquin tied up the score during this second overtime period and eventually won the provincial championship in penalty kicks. Humber has announced plans to appeal that outcome. Doug Fox, Humber's athletic director, talks about that decision.
I'm putting the appeal through for two things. One's our girls deserve the support, that they played their hearts out and thought they had won after one overtime period. But I don't have a lot of faith that we are going to overturn it in the boardrooms. I don't know that that's the place for this to happen.
Luckily, there's better news on the basketball court for Humber. The Hawks women's basketball team has been ranked 14th in the country by the CCAA after dominating wins over the Algoma Thunderbirds and the Sault Cougars this past weekend. The women are also ranked 3rd provincially behind Algonquin and Fanshawe. When it comes to the NHL lockout, hockey fans are starting to feel a bit like Bill Murray in Groundhog's Day, with every day seeming exactly the same as the day before. There's a glimmer of hope that cycle may be coming to an end, with collective bargaining talks between the league and the Players' Union resuming today. NHLPA Executive Director Donald Fear delivered a comprehensive new CBA proposal. Fear says the union's proposal is percentage-based and takes into account damages from the lockout. The Toronto Raptors continue to stumble in the early season, losing last night to the Philadelphia 76ers by a score of 106-98. The Sixers rallied from behind to beat the Raptors in the fourth quarter with a pair of three-pointers from Nick Young. The Raptors are 3-8 on the season so far. And after getting off to a shaky start themselves, the Chelsea Football Club has fired manager Robert Di Matteo. Matteo stepped into the manager's job last season and guided the errant football club to Champions League and FA Cup victories. The goodwill of managing the top team in European football last year apparently only went so far with the Chelsea brass. With the club struggling to stay atop the Premier League and in the Champions League hunt, they decided to make a change. Di Matteo's replacement probably shouldn't get too comfortable in the manager's chair. He will be the 9th manager at Stamford Bridge since Russian billionaire Roman Abramovich bought Chelsea in 2003. That's all for your sports news. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Elton. After the break, we'll get your latest in entertainment from Aaron Eaton.
Elmo puppeteer Kevin Clash has resigned from Sesame Street. The Niagara Falls New Year's Eve lineup has been announced, and R. Kelly may be Broadway bound. All this and more coming up on your entertainment update.